زبان برومرزی به ویژه رسانه‌های متعلق به اپوزیسیون خانم کاترین پرس شکدام بوده که در شبکه‌های اجتماعی ادعا شد که او به عنوان مأمور جاسوسی موساد سرویس امنیت خارجی اسرائیل به ایران فرستاده شد و اطلاعات بسیار مهمی را از بیت رهبری به دست آورد و در اختیار اسرائیل قرار داد که ممکن است یکی از بزرگترین ضربه‌های اطلاعاتی و سیاسی بر حکومت ایران باشد. خانم کاترین در مصاحبه‌های کوتاه این ادعاها را رد کرده و گفته که او یک تحلیلگر بوده و چند سفر کوتاه به ایران داشته و هرگز به بیت رهبری دعوت نشده و مسلماً هیچ مأموریت جاسوسی به او محول نشده بود. برای بررسی واقعیات امر آقای منش امیر از خانم کاترین شکدم دعوت کرد در مصاحبه دیداری حضور یابد و به پرسش‌های چالشی پاسخ گوید و واقعیات امر را آنگونه که خود ادعا می‌کند به تصویر بکشد. این مصاحبه به زبان انگلیسی انجام شده و به علت کمبود وقت و تلاش برای آنکه هرچه زودتر در اختیار همگان قرار بگیرد به همان صورت انتشار می‌یابد، ولی به زودی برگردان فارسی آن را به آن خواهیم افزود. در این گفتگو آقای منش امیر پس از آوردن یک مثال از شیوه کار موساد اسرائیل به خانم شکدم میگوید که ظاهراً همه اطلاعاتی که درباره او انتشار یافته وی را به یک جاسوس ایدئال و بالقوه مبدل می‌سازد. آقای امیر در آغاز گفتگو یکی از شیوه‌های جاسوسی موساد را این چنین شرح می‌دهد. در سالهای دهه 60 قرن پیشین سوریه در کنار مصر بزرگترین و خطرناکترین دشمن اسرائیل بود و با تسلط بر بلندی‌های گولان امنیت اسرائیل را به شدت تهدید می‌کرد. برای اسرائیل بسیار ضروری و حیاتی بود که درباره ارتش سوریه و مراکز استقرار پایگاه‌های آن و همچنین قدرت تهاجمی نیروهای نظامی سوریه اطلاعات دقیقی به دست آورد. موساد ابتدا یک اسرائیلی را که در سوریه زاده شده بود و زبان عربی را با لهجه سوری صحبت می‌کرد و قیافه‌ای کاملاً سوری داشت به آرژانتین فرستاد. این فرد که الی کوهن نام داشت چند سال در آرژانتین در جامعه سوری‌های مقیم آن کشور زندگی کرد تا همه آداب و رسوم آنها را یاد بگیرد و زبان مدرن سوری را با واژه‌های جدید آن فراگیرد. از نظر رفتاری کاملاً مانند اهالی سوریه شود. الی کوهن یک تجارتخانه نیز به راه انداخت و به داد و ستد پرداخت و ظاهراً ثروتمند شد و پس از آنکه همه تعلیمات لازم را فرا گرفته بود به عنوان یک مهاجر سوری که به وطن خویش باز می‌گردد رهسپار دمشق شد و تجارتخانه خود را در آنجا دوباره برپا کرد و ظاهراً یک تاجر ثروتمند بود که شب‌نشینی‌های مجلل ترتیب می‌داد و بلند پایگان حکومتی به ویژه سران ارتش را به آن دعوت می‌کرد. با آنها دوست می‌شد و اطلاعات نظامی را از دهان آنان بیرون می‌کشید و به اسرائیل می‌فرستاد. پس از جنگ 6 روزه سال 1967 وزارت اطلاعات سوریه از هویت واقعی الی کوهن آگاه شد و او پس از یک محاکمه کوتاه اعدام گردید. آقای امیر پس از آوردن این مثال خطاب به خانم کاترین شکدم گفت که او نیز ظاهراً خصوصیات مشابه دارد. در یک خانواده یهودی در فرانسه به دنیا آمده و بعدها با یک مسلمان یمنی ازدواج می کند و ظاهراً به اسلام می گرود و پس از جدایی از این شوهر به حکومت اسلامی ایران روی می آورد و به تهران می رود و به بیت رهبری نفوذ می کند و با دهها و صدها از فرماندهان سپاه پاسداران و مقامات ارشد حکومتی آشنا می شود و آنها را تخلیه اطلاعاتی می کند و موفق می شود به موقع از ایران خارج شود و چند سال بعد به افشاگری بپردازد. در وبلاگ شخصی خود بنویسد که چگونه به ایران رفته و توانسته با آخوند ابراهیم رئیسی مصاحبه کند. آقای منشه امیر پس از این مقدمه از خانم کاترین پرسید که این اطلاعات درباره وی تا چه حد درست است و آیا او توانسته به بیت رهبری نیز رخنه کند و به گردآوری اطلاعات بپردازد. البته باید یادآوری کرد که وبلاگ خانم شکدم که در وبسایت تایمز اسرائیل انتشار یافت به صورت 100% جعلی به فارسی ترجمه گردید و وسیله‌ای برای حملات سیاسی گسترده از جانب اپوزیسیون ایران علیه رژیم گردید. آقای امیر از خانم شکدم پرسید که کدام یک از این ادعاها درست است و چه مدت او در بیت رهبری مشغول بوده و با کدام یک از مقامات ارشد رژیم دیدار و ارتباط داشته است. خانم شکدم همه این جزئیات را دروغ و بی اساس خواند و نسخه خود را ارائه کرد که دیدگاه وی را از جزئیات زندگیش و سفرها به ایران و حمایت از جمهوری اسلامی روشن می‌سازد. ترجیح دادیم این گفت و شنود را با همان صدای اصلی خانم کاترین منتشر کنیم، ولی در اینجا فشرده‌ای از گفتگوها را در اختیار بینندگان قرار می‌دهیم. آقای امیر در ابتدا خطاب به خانم کاترین گفت که با توجه به شیوهی که در مورد الی کوهن توضیح داده شد، او نیز می‌تواند یک مدل ایدئال جاسوسی برای موساد باشد، زیرا او در یک خانواده یهودی زاده شد و ابتدا با یک مسلمان یمنی ازدواج کرد که با اخلاق و رفتار مسلمانان آشنا شود. پس از این دوره تجربه اندوزی از همسرش جدا می شود و به سوی حکومت ایران که اهل تشیع است روی می آورد و به ایران دعوت می شود و بین 5 تا 8 سال در آن کشور می ماند و با بسیاری از چهره‌های کلیدی سیاسی و شاید نظامی حکومت نزدیک می شود و پس از انجام این مأموریت سالم از ایران خارج می شود. آقای امیر توضیح داد که این ادعا بر اساس استانداردهای گفته شده و مطالبی است که در شبکه‌های اجتماعی انتشار یافته است. آقای امیر خطاب به خانم کاترین گفت: شما جاسوس موساد هستید. در این باره چه میگویید؟ خانم کاترین گفت که مردم در نهایت امر آنچه را که خودشان میخواهند باور میکنند و شخص وی قربانی درگیری‌های سیاسی بین جناح‌های مختلف شده است. برخی گروه‌های رقیب با این ماجرا فرصتی یافتند که دولت پرزیدنت ابراهیم رئیسی را مورد حمله و اتهام قرار دهند. خودتان می‌دانید که رژیم ایران عادت دارد هر امری را به موساد نسبت دهد. تمام آنچه که در مورد من گفته شده یک نوع خیال پردازی است و واقعیت آن است که من سالیان دراز به نویسندگی سیاسی مشغول بودم و نوشته‌های من مورد پسند رژیم ایران نیز قرار گرفت. یک علت آن بود که اکثر نوشته‌های من ضد عربستان سعودی بود. در این نوشته‌ها من از حق حاکمیت 2 دولت سوریه و عراق دفاع می‌کردم و نوشته‌های ضد آمریکایی هم داشتند. من به عنوان یک روشنفکر غربی مورد توجه آنان قرار گرفتم و اگر تصور شود که آنها از من سوء استفاده کردند، عکس این ارزیابی درست است. این تصور که هر یهودی میتواند جاسوس بالقوه موساد باشد نابخردانه است و از تصورات غلط ناشی می شود. ولی در مورد من اینکه یهودی هستم و می توانم جاسوس موساد باشم صدق نمی کنم. من یک یهودی سکولار و زاده فرانسه هستم و اگر این تصورات می توانست درست باشد، قاعدتاً سرویس اطلاعات فرانسه بود که می بایست مرا بسیج می کرد. فرانسه زادگاه من است و درک نمی کنم که چرا موساد ممکن بود مرا به مأموریت خود درآورد. آقای امیر یادآور شد که وبلاگ کاترین در مورد اینکه به ایران رفته و با رئیسی مصاحبه کرده است توسط افرادی به زبان فارسی انتشار یافت و ادعا شد که این مطلب مصاحبه‌ای با کاترین است و تنها شباهت این ترجمه با متن انگلیسی تاریخ انتشار آن بود و مسلماً مصاحبه‌ای صورت نگرفته بود و در وبلاگ کاترین انتقادهای زیادی نیز از رژیم ایران شده بود. آنها وبلاگی که در تایمز اسرائیل انتشار یافت به صورت یک مصاحبه دروغین و خیال پردازانه در شبکه‌های اجتماعی فارسی زبان منتشر ساختند و این جنجال را به راه انداختند. خانم کاترین در واکنش ارزیابی کرد که دوستان و نزدیکان به احمدی نژاد بودند که به این کار دست زده‌اند و این رفتار بخشی از نبرد قدرت در داخل ایران است. خانم کاترین در پاسخ به پرسش‌های آقای امیر گفت که او جمعاً 5 بار به ایران سفر کرده و مدت اقامت او کوتاه بوده است و مصاحبه‌ای که با رئیسی انجام داده پیش از انتخابات ریاست جمهوری بوده است. او آخوند رئیسی را فردی مؤدب و محترم توصیف کرد و در پاسخ به این پرسش که آیا او می‌داند رئیسی یکی از قضاتی بود که هزاران تلاشگر سیاسی ایران را به چوبه دار فرستاد، گفت که بله، او از این ادعاها اطلاع دارد. او گفت که گرچه در خانواده یهودی به دنیا آمده، یک فرد سکولار است و مانعی برای ازدواج با یک مسلمان نمی‌دیده است. او در پاسخ به پرسش مکرر آقای امیر گفت که ممکن است در گذشته اشتباهاتی مرتکب شده و اگر امروز بود شاید آن رفتار را تکرار نمی‌کرد. او گفت که امروز خود را یک صهیونیست و طرفدار کشور اسرائیل می‌داند. او گفت که تاکنون از اسرائیل دیدن نکرده ولی مایل به چنین دیداری می باشد. آقای امیر پرسید که آیا کاترین حاضر است توانایی‌های خود را در اختیار اپوزیسیون ایرانی قرار دهد؟ خانم کاترین در پاسخ گفت که او علاقه‌مند است به اپوزیسیون ایرانی کمک کند. وی در پایان مصاحبه فاش ساخت که قصد دارد کتابی بنویسد که در آن جزئیات ماجرای سفرها به ایران تشریح خواهد شد، ولی محور اصلی کتاب تجربه مقاله نویسی او درباره یمن، ایران و دیگر کشورهای خاورمیانه است. بینندگان شبکه جهانی کانال 1 را به دیدن این گفتگو دعوت می‌کنیم. کانال 1 در پخش این مصاحبه موازین اطلاع رسانی آزاد را در نظر داشته و بی‌طرفی خود را حفظ کرده است. با هم ببینیم و بشنویم.
Hello, Miss Catherine Perez Shakdom. We are glad that you are with us.
Thank you for having me.
Mrs. Shakdam, there have been so many false news about you and your trips to Iran and what you have done, and you have been accused to be a Mossad agent, the Israeli intelligence service, and many fake news about you. And I'm glad that you give us an opportunity to ask you what really happened and to hear your version about this affair. But before that, I want to explain to you one of the methods of Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service, how they work in other countries or even inside Israel. I give you as an example the Syrian affair. During the 60s, in the last century, Syria was the most dangerous enemy of Israel. It had a very strong military force, and Israel wanted to wage war against the Syrians to destroy all the military potential of this country. And then they found an Israeli, a Jewish Israeli born in Syria. They sent him to Argentina, to Buenos Aires. He has lived 2-3 years in a Syrian immigrants community in Buenos Aires. He learned all the tradition. He practiced the Syrian accent of Arabic, and then he went back to Damascus as a businessman who came back to his country. He put a big business, and he succeeded to make contact with the highest rank of militaries and politicians in Syria, and he sent very precious information to Israel. Now, Miss Catherine, you are an Israeli spy. You have been sent by Mossad to Iran because you are Jewish. Then they ordered you to marry a Yemenite to learn about Islam. Then you divorced. You changed your religious belief. You got close to the Iranian government. You went to Iran. You have been in Iran between 5 to 8 years. You have been very close to the Khamenei's office. You met more than 100 Iranian high officials in Iran, and you gathered precious information about the inside political of Iran, and you sent it to the Mossad. That's what is written in the Iranian social media. And I know that many of this is fake news. That's the reason I ask you to be our guest and to give your version, what really happened. The microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you. Look, ultimately, I think people will believe what they want to believe. I think that one of the main reasons why, Iran and people within the regime and the opposition have chosen to label me as a spy has to do with political warfare. They're fighting for advancements within Iran. They're fighting for control, and so I think that it's useful ammunition against the government of President Raisi right now to accuse me of being a spy and to make him look like a fool. I think that this is number one. Number two, maybe groups outside of Iran, part of the opposition would love the idea of having me as a spy for the Mossad, because it would mean that Iranian officials are leaving themselves open, to spying and leaking information to the rest of the world. So I think that there's a fantasy there that it would be very useful to have people like me, do this job. But then again, this is fantasy. I mean, the reality is a lot more simple, and it's not as glitzy and interesting. It's just the case that, I'm a political analyst, and I was doing my job for a very long time. My writing caught the attention of Iran because my stance was very anti-Saudi. I was denouncing Wahhabism and every iterations of, radicalism and Islamic terrorism. I was advocating for, sovereign political self-determination in Syria and in Iraq against US interventionism. And I think that those ideas that I was discussing in my writing interested Iran, in that Iran saw an opportunity to find a Western intellectual, someone who had access to the media, to actually maybe come on their side and promote their ideas to the rest of the world. And I became a pawn in the game. If anything, they used me. It wasn't the other way around. Now, I can understand you saying that, me being Jewish and that Mossad, uses people like Eli Cohen to spy on Syria or, other countries in the Middle East. Usually those people speak the language. I don't speak and write Farsi.
Yes,
I don't speak and write Hebrew as well, by the way. And me being Jewish doesn't mean I'm Israeli. By the same way, not all Israelis are Jewish. So, I think there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to the Jewish people and this willingness from the regime in Iran to label every Jew a spy and an Israeli. This is not the case. I mean, I was born French, and look, let me be very clear. If I was to spy, if any intelligence service was to ever approach me to ask me about what is it that I know, might it be Iran or Yemen or Iraq or Syria or whatever country, I think that the French intelligence services would be the first in line because this is my country. Yes. I don't know why the Mossad would want to recruit me. Now that being said, by having Iran to keep saying that I have so much information and making things up and make me sound a lot more interesting than I actually am, because I do not have state secrets. You never know what might happen, because now they might say, we want to speak to her. Who is she? But look, it hasn't happened. I'm not a spy. There's nothing I can do, say, to convince people beyond the fact that what they're saying is not reasonable. And people need to ask themselves, what is it that they think I know? What is it that I spied on in Iran? Because I don't quite understand. And look, they have said many things about, me getting to know like hundreds of Iranian officials or whatever. Those are lies and fabrication and an attack on my character, because they're trying to dismiss what I'm saying and what I'm going to say in the future. I think there's a fear in Tehran that because I was so close to them and I moved within the political and religious circles, and that I do understand the agenda, that I do understand the narrative that the government is trying to weave and the lies that they're telling, and I understand how they're telling those lies, that I'm going to expose them. And that it's going to be very difficult for them to deny what I'm saying because I was close to them. At some point, I was them. So I annoyed them. So they're trying to dismiss and trying to attack me right now so that people will stop listening to me. But the reason being, because they know I can actually be quite dangerous in that I could destroy the propaganda machine that they have, because I know what they're doing and I know how they're doing it. And I think that's the only, deep down, they know, in Tehran, they do know I'm not a spy. They're just saying this because it's easier, to try to have people hate me and dismiss me. But they know that I'm not. But, this is what they do. If you're Jewish and you say something against the regime in Iran, you are labeled a CIA agent, a KGB agent, a Mossad agent. If you listen to them, the entire Jewish population across the world, is working for the Mossad. It's not the case, but,
No, I have to emphasize that most of these labels and defamation has been published by the Iranian opposition.
Yes.
Thinking that by that they can fight the Iranian actual regime. And they have done one very filthy action. And your weblog in the Times of Israel has been translated into Persian, and totally different from what you have written. The only similarity was only the date. only the date.
But this tells you exactly the kind of regime that you're dealing with. and I know which camp you're talking about. It's Ahmadinejad's people. Those people, yeah, I know them really well. Those people are the most radical, fascist, dangerous, people that I've come across in my entire life. And I've dealt with, Islamic radicalism, so that says a lot. Those people are twisting reality to such an extent that they would tell you that when it's night, it is day, and when it's day, it is night, and you have to believe them. They are the very definition of not just fascism, but when an ideology is twisted so much on its head that it becomes nefarious and dangerous, this is what they're doing. This is the kind of language they're projecting. They just lie and lie and lie. And I think that they actually believe their own lie. They believe that everything is a conspiracy. They're completely paranoid. And they, quite frankly, they are insane, completely insane. But, the kind of insane that you would want to take out, out of the public sphere, because they are quite dangerous, not just to Iranians, but the rest of the world. If those people were to reach power, we all need we need to hide in the nearest cave. Those people are extremely dangerous.
Now, I want to give you the opportunity of telling us your version. And my first question, how many times you have been traveled to Iran, and when was the first, and what was the reason?
Okay. I think, if I recall correctly, I've been in Iran about 5 to 6 times maximum. Every time I was there for about 4 days at a time. So it was never it was never a long stay. The first time I went to Iran was to attend the Palestine conference. And that's how it started. And then after, I had, several visits, all for various and different reasons. And I enjoyed my trips to Iran, if I'm honest. Iran is a beautiful country. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be. Iran is not very much talked about in Western media. There's always this idea painted that, it's a very dangerous place. It's a very dark place. And I found that it's a vibrant, beautiful society with a very long history and culture and art. And, I'm glad that I traveled to Iran. But there's this other side to Iran as well, which is, a tale of political oppression and repression and lies and propaganda and the hijacking of an entire people's future so that, a handful of few could share into the wealth of Iran and not allow people to actually benefit, from the natural resources that Iran has, and locking people into isolation because, again, a very few, decided to conduct themselves in such a way that the rest of the world had to lock them away under sanctions.
Yeah. And who invited you to Iran? How you contacted the Iranians, and who is Talebzadeh?
Okay, so I did not contact anyone. They contacted me. So it all started. Well, it all started with Press TV, where I was doing interviews, and then I guess that my email just was giving away to different people. And I had an email one day, an official email from the Conference on Palestine, from the executive committee, organizing committee, asking me if I wanted to attend, explaining to me that it was organized by Parliament and that the New Horizon group was also helping, organize international guests to come over to Iran. And this is when Nader Talebzadeh came into the picture, because it's his organization. At that point, I did not know him. So I get, they arranged for the plane tickets and the visa and everything, and I got to Iran. And I met Nader Talebzadeh there, and I met many, many different people. State officials were there, MPs. You had all kinds of different people at that conference, including journalists, analysts, state officials from various countries, Lebanon, Palestine, Yemen, Bahrain. You had many, many state representatives.
But I think that the reason that Talebzadeh invited you to Iran is because of the articles you published in favor of the Palestinians, in favor of the Iranian regime.
Yeah, I did. Look, at the time,
yes.
I think I was locked into an environment that did not allow to see me the full picture. And I was very, very vocal in my criticism of Israel. I've changed my perspective now. I think I see the whole picture. So my position is very different. It doesn't mean that I don't sympathize with the plight of Palestinians. It doesn't mean that I will not defend them when human rights have been violated. I would defend people who are being oppressed and facing injustice. This is my stance. But it doesn't mean that we have to advocate for the disappearing of an entire country in order to defend the people. That I came to understand. So yeah, I guess that they thought that I was easily manipulated and that I was someone they could use for their benefit.
But you have been invited officially to write articles in favor of the Iranian regime in the official website of the leader of the regime.
Yes. I was. They called me one day, out of the blue. I saw an Iranian number, and I was like, okay, I don't know who that is. Picked up the phone, and there was a gentleman telling me that he was working as an editor for Ayatollah Khamenei's website, and that they wanted me to write for him, and I said yes.
Yeah, I want to ask you sincerely: do you regret of what you have done, and today you would act differently?
I would say yes and no. I would not do that again because I've come to, I know now, if I knew then what I know now, maybe not. However, I'm very happy that I made those mistakes because now I feel I can act as a cautionary tale. I'm hoping that people will draw from my experience and understand how the Iranian propaganda works, how they are capable of bringing intellectuals and academics to their side and turn you into, their own little weapons of war and put words in your mouth and change your reality and make you believe things which are not real. I think it's important for us to understand in order to stop it. So I don't regret what I've done because everything I've done with sincerity. Everything that I've written at the time, I believed. I changed my mind and I'm glad that I did. And I am ashamed that I was a tool of propaganda for the regime. And I intend to fix this and to do everything I can from now on to address and expose, Iran for what it is, a fascist theocracy.
Another sincere question. Will you join the Iranian activists against the regime to topple it, to help them?
Of course. If I can help in any way, if my experience, my voice, or I would say the notoriety that I have now with the regime can help in any way, shape or form to free Iranians from, the violence that they find themselves living under, absolutely. Of course, because I've done so many mistakes in my life. I think I need to atone, and I owe it to both the Israelis and the Iranians to actually fix it. If I can, in any way, shape, or form, of course I will.
Yeah. Now I want to get some more information. Did you met Ayatollah Khamenei by person?
Look, people have said many things. I did not meet him. A meeting was not organized. Okay, he was passing through, the conference hall, and I was in the front row, and I said hello, and he looked back and said hello, and that was the end of it. So it's not a meeting. It's not a meeting as such. Did I speak to him? Yes. Did I meet with him and had a coffee? No. And the problem is people keep, when they keep asking me this question, I'm trying to tell the truth and explain exactly what happens, but people take it out of context and say, no, she said she met him and then she said she didn't. I never met him. It's not, I wasn't invited, to meet with him. But he came through and someone said, do you want to come and say hi very quickly? Maybe he'll say hi back to you. And I did that. And he did, said, salam, salam. That was it.
Have you participated in any rally in Tehran against Israel, in favor of Palestinians or supporting the Iranian regime?
No, I never. Well, outside the conference, no, I never was invited to any demonstration or rally or anything like that.
But you made an interview with Ebrahim Raisi.
I did. I actually followed him on the campaign trail for a day.
What was your motive?
Oh, it was, RT, the Russian television channel, asked me if I would be willing to travel to Iran on their behalf and do an interview with him. The reason being, they didn't have anyone in the UK who could travel to Iran and get a visa as quickly as I could, because I'm a French, I have a French passport, and so my passport is given to me at the airport. And they knew that I knew a lot of Iranians, officials. And so they asked me, can you arrange it? And I said, yes, I'll try. I called Nader Talibzadeh and told him that RT wanted to do an interview with Mr. Raisi, and he said, I will help you, and it happened.
Now I want to ask you, what's your assessment about the Raisi's character?
It's complicated because, look, I didn't sit with him for very long, and he was very charming and very polite and very kind to me. He was actually quite generous with his time. He invited me to fly back to Tehran from Rasht, on his plane with his people. He didn't have to, so he was very kind and very, very welcoming. Now, I found that he was, at least he gave me the impression of being well educated. He's intellectually, I would say that he's rather smart. But you can tell this is someone that is very, very ambitious, and is quite willing to go with the flow, in that he would not confront you if he would not want to disagree with you. So he will try to do everything he can to make sure that he's telling you what you want to hear. And it's quite interesting because I wasn't quite sure what the things that he was telling me in terms of the policies that he wanted to run should he become president were his policies, or if he was just a spokesperson for someone else and that he was just there physically, but that power was not really with him. That, there was an agenda, it was just there to be a puppet, and to be like a public speaker, as opposed to someone with a genuine grip on politics. And I'm not sure until now. I know that he's very ambitious, you can tell. He's rather powerful because he run Mashhad, which is, in my mind, it's a competing power to Tehran, financially and religiously. And I think that he's someone that definitely aspired to become the next, Ayatollah Khamenei. And I think it was promised to him, at least I was told. And it's going to make a lot of people unhappy.
Yeah. Did you know that he's a criminal as a judge, and he sent to killing thousands of Iranian political activists?
I've asked the question. I've actually asked the question. Because up until the point where they asked me to do the interview, I didn't really research him, and then I did, and I've asked them, why it was that people had those allegations against him, and I remember him dismissing it, saying that those were the lies of the MEK, the MKO, and that it wasn't true at all. It was all propaganda, and I was okay. It's I've noticed that in Iran it's either the Israelis or it's the MKO or MEK, however you want to call it. They usually it's always, it's either the fault of Israel or the MEK. It's never them.
Yeah, but it was said that you met more than 100 Iranian high-rank politicals. Is it true?
No. Look, I think I've met about, I would say, 20 people, I would say, who have, influence in Iran, to various degrees of influence. But, 100, no, I didn't.
Excuse me if I say one more thing that I don't believe it, but I want to hear your version. You have been having sexual relations with some of them.
No.
Is that true?
No, of course not. Look, again, you know, I think they're saying those things because I'm a woman. And I think they're trying again, you know, to allege that, you know, I'm not a good character. And I think there's also a desire to shame me into silence, you know, thinking that, oh, if they say this about me, I would get, you know, I would be ashamed and angry and I would stop talking. I'm Western. I don't care. You know, they can say whatever they want to say. It's not true. I know it's not true. They know it's not true. What people choose to believe at this point is their problem. But it's just such a ridiculous allegation to make. I think it says more about them than it says about me. That they are so willing to defame a woman's character for the sake of political gain. This is something they do systematically. I have, you know, look, beyond no, it did not happen. Whatever people want to believe, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. I know it didn't, so whatever.
Well, look, you are a foreigner, you are European, you are young, you are beautiful, you are smart. And the Iranians, all your characters are very much beloved by the Iranians. Did you receive any wedding suggestion?
Yes, I did actually, from someone close to Raisi.
Tell us about it, please.
I cannot remember his name, so I can't give you his name. I know he was a judge, apparently a very important, powerful judge in Iran, in Tehran. And he asked me if I wanted to move to Iran, learn Farsi, because I told him, you know, I don't speak the language, and he was speaking to me through someone. And I told him that I wasn't interested, but he was very polite about it. So I wasn't offended whatsoever. You know, he had someone call me and say that he had met me at, you know, during the interview, and that he wanted to know if I wanted to become his wife, and I politely declined, and that was it. But there's nothing shameful about this. I think he was a gentleman about it, and I said no, and that was it.
Yeah. I want to go back to articles you wrote about for the Khamenei's official website. You told in one of your interviews that it was not exactly what you have written. They made so many changes in your article. Tell me about that.
Okay, so usually what used to happen, they used to send me a subject matter and telling me, like, you know, they wanted me to write, for example, about Yemen, let's just say, you know, from the because, you know, it was, let's say it was Ashura or something like this, and they wanted, you know, me to write something about Yemen from the perspective of Ashura, or to try to translate Imam Hussein revolution to a Western audience and to try to find ways to make them relate to the story in modern terms, you know, things like that. And so I used to write the article, send it back to them for editing. And a lot of the time, they would not tell me anything. They would just publish the article, but then, you know, maybe change things, remove certain things that I said to try to give context, remove them completely, add quotes, do their own little, editing. And I didn't have any control over this. And sometimes, it's a little bit upsetting as a writer because you're trying to say something, and then, when people edit it without asking you, the meaning of the article get lost a little bit. So I didn't have control over this. But then again, look, it is Ayatollah Khamenei's website. I mean, it's not like, I complained a couple of times, but they didn't care, obviously. There was nothing I could do about it. So you then had the choice to stop writing for them, which I did, or continue and then, bear the edits and the conflicts of interest sometimes. So yeah, I choose to stop.
Yeah. What was your last date of travel to Iran? The last trip.
I don't remember. It was in 2018 or 17. I can't remember. I would need to check my passport.
Yeah, it means more or less 3 years after that, you published a weblog. Mm-hmm. Discovering that you have been in Iran, who you are and what you have done. Mm-hmm. What was the reason that, and a critical article about weblog about the Iranian regime. What was your motivation? What did you intend to express by this action?
I wanted, because a lot is being said, currently about, the nuclear deal, the sanctions, things like this. And I wanted to add my voice to this, because I have a lived-in experience of Iran. I was on the other side of the fence in terms of, my political belief, and who I was critical of. And so I wanted people to understand what I had been through, what I've seen and experienced, and actually use my experience to maybe open their eyes a little bit and have greater context and understanding of the situation. Because I feel that it's my responsibility to do so. And so I decided to write for the Times of Israel because I think it's relevant. And I knew that if I was to publish something like that in the Times of Israel, people would pay attention, at least the people I was trying to speak to, the Israelis and the Jews in general, to try to just offer my perspective and insight, because not many people have done what I've done. And so I think that I owed it to my people to actually give that insight to them and tell them, maybe you want to listen to me, not because I'm special, but because I've seen things that you don't usually have access to. And I want to continue to do so because I think it's important. And I mean, how many women, of Jewish heritage, can claim that, they've met with President Raisi or even met, state officials in Iran, when Iran is so very closed off to the Jews in general, even more so to Israel. So I think it's important for me to speak up. And it took them about 3 months to wake up, though, so it took a while. And I just, but I did not expect that reaction. I thought that it would start a conversation, but I did not expect to have Iran, get literally crazy over this article and the circus that happened after that.
May I ask you if you are a adventurous person? Or
in what way?
A journalist and journalists do adventures to have first-handed information. Are you adventurous?
I'm curious. I'm very, very curious. And I like to understand things, and I like to go places where not many people have gone. And I love history. So if I can see history in the making, I want to be there. So maybe in that way, yes. But I don't, I would never put myself in danger willingly. I don't think I was ever in danger when I was in Iran. So it was okay. Would I go back now? Of course not. But, I'm glad that I did. I'm really glad that I've seen the thing that I've seen and met the people that I met, because you don't meet those people, every day. We even have the opportunity to speak to them. So I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah, but journalists endanger their lives in war fields and the other missions for getting first-handed information. That's very natural. Aren't you afraid that somebody may attack you?
No.
Today?
No, what for? I'm not, I don't have state secrets. I don't have anything that could, endanger the regime. I'm just one person with an opinion. I think I annoy them because of the publicity around me. But I don't think that they see me as a danger. I don't think that paranoid. No, I don't think I'm in danger whatsoever. I'm just one person. It's just not, I'm not gonna on my own destroy the entire regime. It's not possible. No, I don't think they care very much about me.
But don't you think that there are some people who want to silence you? Maybe some secrets that may endanger them inside Iran or outside Iran?
No, I think there is a fear maybe that should they bother me too much, I would actually say things that they don't want me to say. But I don't think that. No, I don't think you kill people over that easily. I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah.
A minor question: why your first interview was with BBC. It hasn't a good name in Iran, please.
Because I don't see. Look, I didn't do this interview with Iran in mind or what Iran think. Quite frankly, I actually don't. I didn't care. I wanted to go to the BBC because I have a working relationship with the BBC. I go as a guest quite often, for BBC Arabic. So when they reached out to me out of professional courtesy, BBC is a reputable, independent television channel, and it's government run, but it's done in they're a serious channel. It's not this is not the channel next door. They know exactly what they're doing, and I thought it was important for me to have a platform as big as the BBC, knowing that the question that they would ask me would actually be intelligent questions, and that I would have the opportunity to say the thing that I wanted to say. And I'm glad that I did. I mean, I know that people have said that because I went on the BBC, but automatically that means that, well, yes, I'm a spy because, look,
or you are connecting
those conspiracy, that I'm supporting the regime, but that I'm hiding it. And look, people need to make up their mind. Either I'm a spy, or I'm against the regime, or I'm supportive of the regime. I just decide what is it that I am. No, it's the BBC. If CNN had asked me, I would have gone to CNN. They didn't. It was the BBC, so I did this. And why not? Why not? I mean, look, everyone else, all the other channels, Iranian channels, were trying to contact me, and they were more interested in lying than telling the truth, and the BBC wasn't. So, of course, I gave an interview to the BBC. Why would I go with an Iranian, government-run channel to talk about my experience? Because this is, I had Press TV coming to me. I had so many different TV channels. And I told them, I said, you have said so many horrible things about me, lying about, who I am and what I did. Why would I want to speak to you? When I know you're not interested, you're gonna mistranslate what I'm saying. You're gonna misspoke on my behalf. The BBC would not do that. So I went there and spoke to them.
About your feelings about Judaism and Israel, about Judaism first.
I'm not religious. So, people need to understand this, because people have, I've read comments on social media, and, they're making fun of me, saying, oh, one day she's a Jew, after she's a Muslim, and she's a this. Judaism, is not the same thing as being Jewish. Judaism is a religion, right? Now, in order to...
It's also a culture.
It is also a culture. But to be a Jew, you regardless of what happened in your life, you're born a Jew and you will die a Jew. This is your ethnic, social, cultural identity. Now, you can choose as a Jew to practice Judaism. Many do. Some, like me, chose not to, because it never spoke to me. Okay? Now, what I choose to do with the rest of my life and my belief, concern me, and it's a personal, private matter. But in being Jewish and practicing Islam are not two things that cannot cohabitate. I was born a Jew. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm quite proud of being Jewish, and it's not something that people can wash away. Or even if I was to change religion again, it's not going to go away. So people need to understand this. It's not, being a Jew goes well beyond the practice of Judaism. Well beyond it. In the same way that you could be Iranian and live in America, you still be Iranian, and you could be Iranian and Christian, or Iranian and Muslim, or Iranian and atheist. The fact that you were born, born within the Iranian community does not change with, which country you decide to move into or what religion you choose to practice. It's the same thing with being Jewish. So you were born a Jew, you die a Jew, whatever you do in between is your business.
Can I define you as a Zionist and supporting Israel?
Yeah, as long as we're talking about secular Zionism, yes, because I'm not interested. The kind of Zionism, the religious Zionism coming out of Israel is not something that I agree with.
No, the political one.
As long as we're talking about, secular Zionism, yes, absolutely.
Have you ever been in Israel?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. You don't know, the Mossad might invite me. You never know.
Okay. My last question. I was informed that you're trying to publish a book about all these affairs. Is it true? And maybe you give us some explanation. What are you going to do to write about?
Well, yes, I'm writing a book. I'm hoping that it's going to be published around Christmas 2022. So, in about 6 to 8 months' time, right around that. And I'm going to relay, it's not just about Iran, by the way, it's about my journey in the Middle East and the thing that I've seen and the people I've met and the lessons I've learned. And I want to tell my story from a Jewish perspective. Because I faced a lot of anti-Semitism while in the Middle East, and I want to tell my story through my eyes, and basically, tell the tale of the Arab Spring and the thing that I've seen in Iran and the conflict in Iraq and Yemen and all those different places in the Middle East through my experience. So it's a political tale, kind of mixed with my personal experience and the kind of life lessons that I've learned along the way. So hopefully, it will be interesting.
I hope that it will be, I'm sure, in fact, that it will be a bestseller. Do you intend to translate it into Persian also?
I think they will do that for me. Maybe. I'm definitely going to have it, translated in Hebrew, that's for sure. And we'll see. But I don't think that Iranians will buy my book in Iran for some reason. I think it's going to be banned, but it's okay.
I want to tell you something. I live in Israel. That your affair, all these scandals that the Iranian opposition and the Ahmadinejad's supporters made in this affair, it was almost ignored in Israel. It didn't have any echo here, and it was not a hot story in Israel. I want to thank you very much being our guest and to answer my questions.
My pleasure.
Yeah, excuse me if I have asked you some uneasy questions. Thank you very much.
It's okay. Thank you so much, and you take care.
Thank you.